We're going to talk about Airborne Express. So number one, how and why has the express mail industry and structure evolved in recent years? So I think the changes in having overnight documents and having faster access to documents, so companies are looking for advantages to doing things better, especially with the internet involved and wanting quicker access to information. And using planes for only express mail delivery, distance-based prices, overnight shipping with different types of delivery, morning or afternoon delivery, the ability to track delivery, and also increasing information systems, and using the internet website to allow customers to track the status of packages, and increase of hubs, facilities. And then the changes affected the smaller companies because they can compete with UPS, Federal Express, and Airborne. All three companies serve 85% of the market. Number two, how has Airborne survived and recently prospered in the industry? I think mainly focusing on the business customers that consistently ship and large volume urgent items to other business locations. Focusing on that, ownership of their own airport has been very important to them. Contracting with delivery and pickup and having their own warehouses, and not having any retail services, only drop-off boxes. Using only new technology after the other competitors tried it first, and then offering low prices. And the last thing is partnership with RP, which allow them to have access to customer base and ground delivery.
When we break up the cost per unit for both Federal Express and Airborne Express, we're able to see why Airborne was able to still compete even though their level of service was relatively low compared to the other companies. The biggest savings as far as per unit costs were in the long-haul transportation, and a big portion of that was due to them owning their own airport. They didn't have to pay the rental and landing fees that other companies like Federal Express had to pay, and so that allowed them to save almost a third of the costs per unit of the long-haul transportation. Some other areas to point out is advertising. It was virtually, Airborne basically didn't advertise in the media. They had a sales force that took care of getting the word out. As far as information technology, customer service, those levels of service were lower than the other companies, which was able to save them money per unit there. And the overall result of this is that they had an overall total cost per unit that was much lower than the other main competitors, but they also had a lower willingness to pay from the other company, or a lower willingness to pay from consumers because of that lower level of service. Even though that was the case, though, there was a relatively high margin of 64 cents per unit compared to 45 cents for Federal Express, and that allowed them to still compete even though they weren't the biggest company out there.
Okay, so what does Rob Brazier, Airborne's president CEO, need to do? First off, they need to adopt distance and weight-based pricing. This is becoming an industry standard. If Airborne does not adopt this distance-based pricing, they'll either be overpriced for their local deliveries or they'll be underpriced for their long-distance deliveries. So by adopting their distance-based pricing, they can be competitive in both long and short hauls. And the second more important thing is they need to look at more contracts like RPS, where they can get away from the truck, the delivery, and the pickup, and they can focus in on their strengths, which is the long haul, either through air or through trucking, and that overnight type delivery. They're not really good at going local. They need to stick to what they know, which is long distance.
All right, and then the last couple questions we have to answer is why Airborne hasn't been trampled by FedEx or UPS, and how we explain their unique activities and why it hasn't been replicated. As mentioned earlier, Airborne was focused on a much smaller, a specific target customer, unlike UPS and FedEx that were looking at trying to be all things to everybody. And because of that, Airborne targeted a unique set of activities to help meet the needs of those companies and allow them to compete on price. From owning their hub, allowing it so they could tailor the facilities to their own needs, and also leasing properties to mail order leasing space to mail order companies. Allowed them to really compete on price with this specific niche group. And given the large capital investments that are required to purchase an airport hub, it would be difficult for a competitor to make this type of investment and then focus on a niche market, like targeting only heavy shipping businesses. So thank you.